Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Blue Feather Ephemera channel. This is Greg, and in my videos weekly, I show you what's sold in my eBay store where I sell vintage magazine print advertising. This week, I sold some really great ads, a total of 16 of them for $211.32. I also cover a bonus topic, and this week we're going to take a look at part two of my pricing, and we're going to discuss what aspects of an advertisement might command a premium added to the base price. So stay tuned for that. But first up, let's take a look at those ads. First up, we've got an advertisement for Double Bubble Bubble Gum, and this is a company called Fleers. This ad ran in Look magazine in 1952, and Look was mainly devoted to the movie industry. And here we've got this little boy who's endorsing the bubble gum, and his name is Richard Colmar. And his mother, it says she's a famous Broadway columnist, Dorothy Kilgallen, and his dad is an actor and a producer named Richard Colmar. But the boy says he likes the flavor of the bubble gum. It lasts a long time, and he really goes for the funnies on the wrapper too. $8.77 sent this ad to Pennsylvania. This is a nice advertisement from 1941, so it's a World War II era ad. It appeared in Fortune magazine. The company is called Felt and Tarrant, and the brand of the item here is Comptometer. Comptometer made adding and calculating machines for business, and at the top of the ad, it says, "How many is precious few, lover?" And it shows this husband and wife, and they're sitting around. She's reading the paper, and so she throws that question out to him. In the detail of the ad here, it makes the point that sometimes abstractions are not important when you use words like countless or hardly any or quite a few if you don't know precise numbers. But when numbers are important, when exact figures matter, Comptometer helps you figure those out. So, neat ad, nice premise for the point of the advertisement. $21.77 sent this to a buyer in Poland. This is a 1956 advertisement for Miller Beer. It ran in Saturday Evening Post. On the red shield here, Miller High Life, that's always been the company's slogan, and their motto says it's the champagne of bottled beer. But in the ad, you see the couple here relaxing at home. She's seated in front of this large console stereo record player, and those things, the decorations on top of the furnishings, that's also in the modernist style. So everything about this ad is mid-century modern. That's highly sought after by collectors. It was the beginning of the atomic age and the jet age, and that we're starting into the space age with the space program. But there's just a couple of issues with the ad. There's a couple of small bends and creases and some discoloration down here on the corner, but still a beautiful ad. And $14.77 sent this to Pennsylvania. This ad here is identical to one that I talked about a couple of months ago. It's another ad from the Quartermaster Review, 1944. In this ad, it shows a paratrooper getting ready to jump out of his airplane, and it says, "Food fights for freedom." And it talks about Stokely's canneries producing food that's used in the war effort. And down here at the bottom, it says Stokely Brothers and Company, Indianapolis. But in that last review of this ad, I talked about the Stokely Company's strong ties to the Knoxville, Tennessee community. And just like the last one, this one is also going to Knoxville, Tennessee. This one is going to a buyer with the last name of Stokely. $8.77 sent it on its way. This advertisement ran in Argosy Magazine, 1964, and the advertiser is the North American School of Conservation, and it's based in Los Angeles, California. And it talks about how you can become a government hunter, a game warden, a forester, or an aide to any of these positions that requires less formal education. But it shows a fella here with his mountain lion that I would assume he had to kill in the course of his work. And it talks about thrills and adventure, security, job security, a healthful outdoor lifestyle. And in the thrills and adventure department, I guess there's something to that because there today there are producers and TV people making good money following these game wardens around and checking out what they do for a living. So there's something to that. $8.77 sent this ad to California. One of the many reasons to enjoy old magazines is for the illustrations and just the fantastic artwork that you find in Woman's Home Companion or Saturday Evening Post or Collier's, especially the illustrations for some of the stories that they ran. This is not a print advertisement here. This is just an illustration that goes along with a story that ran in Woman's Home Companion 1942. And in this illustration, it shows this couple here. They're at some sort of a formal soiree, and everybody's dressed up. And she says, "Steve, look, that's the man who was in the green sedan last night." So just a little bit of intrigue there. And it's got the artist signature on this illustration, Walter M. Baumhofer. It's a really beautiful page, and the prospective buyer contacted me and asked if I would take $10 for it. I had it priced at $18.77, and basically, I just, based on the look of it, I knew it would sell for a good price. So I responded that I wouldn't come down to that price, but they could get it for a great deal using the 10% off coupon that I'm running in the store right now. And so that was agreeable to them. They bought it for $16.89 after the coupon was applied. It's on its way to North Dakota. I've not really talked in detail about this kind of advertisement in the past, but I did want to speak to it now because this single color advertisement with the green here just has a lot of visual impact. And so, if an advertiser back in the day, if they didn't want to pay for full color ads, especially in this case where the green of the advertisement is so closely associated with the green cans of the Quaker State motor oil. This was just a way to save advertising dollars and still have the visual impact of color. So, a really nice ad. This one ran in Look magazine in 1952, and $16.77 sent it to California. Here's a nice advertisement for a BMW motorcycle. It's the R65LS, a motorcycle made in Germany. I've got it mentioned in the keyword title keywords here as a 1980s man cave item, and this ran in Playboy magazine in 1983. In the detail of the illustration here, it's got a motorcycle rider speeding along, and down in the details here in the text, it talks about the quality control measures that they use during the production of the motorcycles. And so, just a high quality ad, $12.77 sent this to Washington. This ad that's on the screen right now taught me a little something I didn't know about the Parker Brothers Company. Down at the bottom here, it says that the Parker Brothers Company is based in Salem, Massachusetts, and Des Moines, Iowa. This is an ad for a Ouija board, and I thought when I saw this ad, maybe they just put Salem, Massachusetts on there to kind of accentuate the arcane nature and the reputation of the Ouija board. But I decided to see if that was the case, so I went to a company history of Parker Brothers games, and they were in fact started in Salem, Massachusetts, and they produced a lot of other games long before they produced a Ouija board. So I learned something new there. But anyway, an interesting ad. This ran in American Girl magazine, 1967. $10.77 sent this ad to Michigan. This is an advertisement for the Falconer Boone Bloodstock Agency of Lexington, Kentucky. This ad ran in Classic Magazine, 1975. This was a business that helped to broker the purchase and sale of livestock. I would assume primarily thoroughbred horses, being in Lexington, Kentucky, but and Secretariat also is mentioned in the ad here. But I want to call your attention to the caricature art. That's just something I've always enjoyed, and these are really neat renditions here. $10.77 sent this ad back to its hometown, Lexington, Kentucky. This ad for this company right here is the only one like it that I've sold, and it's also the only one like it that I've ever listed. This company called Marbles Outing Equipment. The company place or the city where it's located is at Gladstone, Michigan. I went and looked that up. That's on the Upper Peninsula, so there's all kinds of outdoor experiences to be had up there. But this ad appeared in the Open Road for Boys in 1945, so it's a World War II era ad. And like so many ads of its time, it says, "Please pardon the empty shelf. If you fail to find the marbles product that you want on your dealer's shelf, remember it is out there somewhere on the fighting front giving a good account of itself." So, Marble Outdoor Arms and Manufacturing Company, they made sportsmen's knives, axes, gun sights, cleaning implements, compasses, waterproof matchboxes, etc. And it's a small ad. It's only about 3 inches by 4 inches. And the buyer actually contacted me to confirm that size before they bought the ad. And when I told them it was 3 inches by 4 inches, they said they thought that it would be a little bit bigger. And I was thinking, well, it ain't changed since I took the pictures. But anyway, they went ahead and bought it anyway for $6.77. It's going back to Michigan. This advertisement is for a General Electric 17 transistor 5 band world monitor radio. And this radio is identical to one that my grandfather had back when I was a kid in the 1970s. And my grandfather, he would sit in his recliner during the evening hours after work and supper, and he would sit there and he would dial through the radio, and we never knew what he was listening to. He thought it was funny, I guess, because we treated it like it was something top secret that only old World War II veterans were privy to, and that we weren't allowed to hear those secrets. He would sit there in the chair with the headphones on and just scroll with his thumb on this tuning knob on the top right of the set here. It had leather wrapped around the outside of the radio with a little carry handle. I remember that distinctly. And these 5 bands, FM, of course, frequency modulation radio, that's our modern FM dial, the shortwave 1 and shortwave 2, BC for the broadcast band, and then the longwave radio, aviation navigation, marine navigation, and all of that. Up in the shortwave, you've got marine and weather, marine ship to shore, and all these interesting things to listen to on this radio. So it was no wonder that he spent time with that radio and really loved and enjoyed doing that. This ad right here ran in Life magazine 1965, and $14.77 sent it to Maine. From 1962, House Beautiful. This is an advertisement for Droll Trolls from Denmark. And there's an import company here called Trolls Unlimited in Atlanta, Georgia. They were importing these little dolls. And because it was a fad, I went and did just a little bit of research. And in Scandinavia, that's as precise as I could find. There was a family with the name DAM. I guess you'd pronounce that Dom. The Dom family invented these about 1959, and within just a few years, they were everywhere. And of course, there were rip-offs or knockoffs or copies made also. I don't know if these dolls right here are the real McCoy or if these might be some of the knockoffs that I read about. But anyway, I know that in the 1970s, my sister had several of these, and I remember seeing them with green hair and purple hair and yellow hair and orange hair. But in this year, at this time, from this company, they sold them with like a little rhyme here. It says, "Droll trolls from Denmark make gifts folks adore, and each funny troll brings good luck galore." And they had three different sizes, 3, 6, 9 inches. When you ordered, you would state the size that you wanted, and you had a choice of hair colors, and it said state your first and second choice because apparently they might be out of one color or another from time to time. But available in that year, they had black and red and white haired trolls. So this was just fun to read about. $6.77 sent this to a buyer in Nevada. Under the heading of "There's a customer out there for every product," you could file this ad right here. This is an ad that ran in Woman's Home Companion 1933, and it's an ad for Lysol disinfectant. But this is not talking about cleaning your counters or your bathroom sink or commode. This is talking about how to use Lysol disinfectant as a marital aid. And it says that if a young couple has an incompatible marriage, then it might be a case for a doctor. And this lady right here is a doctor. She's Anne Marie Durand Weber of Berlin. It says she's a German gynecologist, graduate of the University of Munich. She has a Bachelor of Science from the University of Chicago. She's the founder and head of Advisory Board for Married People, and she's the author of standard German works on problems of birth and sex. So she's written this little booklet here, and it says that if you know a young married daughter or friend who should know these facts, you can write and get this little booklet that tells you how to talk about that sensitive subject. The Lysol disinfectant from the company Lynn and Fink, Bloomfield, New Jersey, ran this ad, and I sold it for $18.77. It's going to Washington State. This is a half-page ad from Ladies' Home Journal, 1952. And in this ad, they're just selling different hosiery products. It says you owe it to your audience. And here you see the figure. It looks like she's got nylons for arms. And when you look down there at the bottom, she's wearing some stockings and she's standing on a pair of gloves. And it explains at the bottom the company makes hosiery, gloves, lingerie, infants and children's underwear. And I guess you pronounce the name of that company Kaser. And again, it's a half page ad. Let me get back out of there and show you the dimensions here. It's about 5.5 by almost 14, and $14.77 sent this to New York. The last sell of the week. This is one of my favorite ads of the week, and it came out of House and Garden magazine, 1936. In the title of the listing, I made sure to put Art Deco font because that really grabs your attention. This is an ad for the Leipzig Trade Fair. It's the world's marketplace. And in 1936, they were holding the 1977th session of this trade fair. It's been going on since the 13th century, more than 700 years. And they're going to have manufacturers from 25 countries and buyers from 72 countries. And I think it's neat that people from all over the world could go to these trade fairs and, make plans to buy and purchase the stock that they're going to have on their shelves, 6 months forward. and through the Christmas season or whatever. Just a really neat thing to see. $16.77 sent this ad to New York. There you have what sold this week at Blue Feather Ephemera, and we'll come back and we'll recap those sales at the end of the video. But now we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about our bonus topic, which is pricing part two, about how to increase your income. And basically, what we're going to look at is some reasons that you might want to consider whether or not you want to add a premium to the base price that you might charge for a listing that you put up in your eBay store. I'll warn you ahead of time right now, and you may want to go ahead and turn off the video if you're not interested in my perceptions or opinions of things. And I say that because I don't have a lot in the way of statistics or figures to tell you about, and you may be breathing a sigh of relief at that revelation after last week's video when we got so in depth with a bunch of numbers and stuff. While I've made mention of last week, let me go ahead and say this too. The part that you're about to watch is part two. Part one wasn't called part one because I didn't realize then that I would have a part two. But this is the second part. And if you watch this, it's not going to do you much good at all if you don't have the foundation of last week's video. So I'm going to link it up at the top. And if you've not seen it, you can go back and watch it before or after this. Last week, that video covered the base price that I would put on advertising that I put up for sale based on what it was, what it cost to process and ship it, and how much I needed to make on it. So that's the foundation for this. In this part two, this says what qualities warrant an applied premium. So on top of the base costs that we learned about last week, I'm going to talk about 6 different categories of characteristics that an advertisement might have that would make me think that it warrants raising the price. While I've been jabbering already, you've had time to read over that list and you can see what those 6 things are that we're going to talk about. There's undoubtedly more than 6. These are the 6 that came to mind in broad categories, though. Then what I've done is I've found examples of ads that I feel like have one or more of these qualities, and I'll show you what I decided to charge as a premium on these ads. We're going to apply a discussion of those 6 characteristics to this ad right here. First of all, it's a scarce ad. I know that it's scarce. There wasn't others up for sale when I listed this, and knowing what where I sourced it, there's not likely to be any others that come onto the market. If they have, it may be a one-off or a two-off, but it's not going to be in the midst of a bunch of competition. The second box that it checks is the subject matter. It's got the old steam locomotive train. That's a kind of a romantic image for people that collect trains or feel, a certain sentiment toward trains. And so it checks the subject matter box. The purpose of it, this image in the story there, it communicates some history. So it's got a purpose. It has value uh, as a communicator of history, and so it checks that purpose box. And then, just because of all of these things tied in together, just the vivid art, the perspective, um, it has that je ne sais quoi. And so, all of those things together make this a particularly excellent ad, in my opinion. I put $68.77 on it. And granted, I've had it up for about 3 months now. It's not sold yet, but I feel confident that that's a price it's going to fetch. I selected this ad to show you an example of an ad with a good subject matter. It's got an elephant on it. A lot of people collect elephants, and they might be elephant figurines, or they might be elephant pictures. They might be elephants in advertising. And so it checks that subject box. But the other thing is the purpose. And there's some historical value here as well. This ad ran in 1946, and it talks about the successes that they realized with the use of one of their products, which is called dichlorodiphenyl trichloroethane, and that's also called DDT. And in past videos, we talked about some DDT issues that almost resulted in the extinction of bald eagles, for example. So uh, it's interesting when you see those products that were hailed as miracle working products that we later on found out weren't as good as we thought they were. I mean, it was important to the war effort to solve the problem of malaria on Saipan, but at the same time, you don't want to go making species extinct. So, for that reason, it's got several things going on that I think make it interesting. And as an 11 by 14 format advertisement, normally the base cost of that would be $12, but I bumped it up to $23.77. Well, the next category we're going to skip over because I actually had a different advertisement lined up to talk about, but the image for it got lost somewhere in the download, or I didn't get it into the download. So I've got something else that we can that checks that box. We'll come back to it, but first let's talk about the purpose of this Stetson ad right here. It says idle words make busy subs. Keep it under your Stetson. And that just talks about the need for secrecy and don't disclose information that might be useful to your enemies. Watch what you say, especially when you're in situations or settings where you don't know who might co-opt that information. So very interesting. It's got historical purpose. It communicates some history there. And it also has some je ne sais quoi in that it makes you feel a certain way about the risk taken by our sailors and our soldiers and just how dangerous it was out on the open ocean during World War II. And so for that reason, I priced this ad up at $21.77. Now, it seems like from past comments that we all, as sellers of advertising, have a love hate relationship with Coca Cola. And part of it has to do with market saturation. And I promised I wouldn't throw a bunch of numbers at you, but I wrote down some stats here that I was able to find this evening. Life magazine at one time had a circulation of 13,500,000 copies every week. And so if Coca Cola put an advertisement in one of those magazines, that's how many were out there. They're everywhere. Um, Saturday Evening Post in the 1960s, I think their peak circulation was around 6 million copies every week. Coca Cola ads that ran in Look magazine, there might be as many as 7,750,000 of those at its peak in 1969. Collier's magazine peaked in 1946 and had a circulation of 2,846,000. And so that's a lot of Coca Cola ads out there. But when you look at this ad right here, I got this out of the Quartermaster Review. And that magazine, I think the peak circulation of it was less than 5,000 copies because it had a target audience of U.S. Army quartermasters. And so Coca Cola put ads targeting that audience in that publication. And that means that of these Coca Cola ads, like you're looking at on the screen right now, less than 5,000 ever existed. And those magazines are nearly impossible to find. And so I've got one of the very few that have been up for sale or will be up for sale, I'm confident, in the next several years. I put it up at $28.77. For a discussion of je ne sais quoi, I picked this image here. We'll also say that it checks the box for age because this ad comes from 1936. This is another advertisement in the 11 by 14 size that I told you last week would have a base cost of $12.77. But any ad from 1936 is going to, in my book, get at least $16.77 on it. And that's just because magazine circulations in the 1930s, especially during those Depression years, were a lot lower than the late 40s, early 50s, up into the 60s. So you just didn't have as many of them out there, plus they're older. It also has going for it a purpose because it's communicating to you right here in one image several years of the evolution of aviation from 1930 up through 1936. It's showing you how these planes have developed. And then also on the left hand side, there's a yellow and black plane in the middle, and right under it is a red and white plane. Both of those aircraft are GB Super Sportster aircraft. Adding to the star power of this ad, the red and white plane, the 1932 winner, was piloted by James H. Doolittle. And that is the same Jimmy Doolittle that led the raid on Tokyo April 18, 1942, when a squadron of B 25 bombers launched from the aircraft carrier USS Hornet, and they bombed several cities in Japan, including Tokyo. And that was a psychological blow to the Japanese to have their mainland attacked, even though the raid didn't do a great deal of damage. The real impact of it was in the psychology of the war. And to top it all off, you've got kind of superimposed over all of these images the Thompson Trophy that these pilots were trying to win. And it's basically, it's got the sunrise or the sunburst at the top. It's got birds in flight, and that figure in the front with his wings spread. I would assume that's a reference to Icarus in Greek mythology. So just a fantastic Art Deco styling on the trophy there as well. Anyway, all of this rolled into one ad, especially considering its scarcity. I put $134.77 on it, and that was with the understanding that it may not sell for that price. If it doesn't sell for a long time, I may bring it down, but at the same time, I may frame it and put it on my wall. I love it that much. It's a fantastic ad. So there's just a brief discussion of the kinds of things to take into account when you consider whether your ad might sell at the base cost or whether you want to kind of add a premium to boost your income from these advertisements. As we move on to the recap screen, I just want to remind you that everything we just discussed about premium pricing on advertising, all of it's subjective. It's up to you. I hope I gave you some things that you can take and use and think about when you decide whether or not to apply premium pricing to some of your advertising. And so now we're going to look at what we sold this week. We had one customer who had the same surname as the name of the company in the advertisement, and that also was a customer in the hometown of the advertiser. We had two of those this week, two ads going back to hometowns, and then we also had one sale through the eBay Global Shipping Program. This week we did not have any repeat customers. So we'll call it a wrap on this week's video. I thank you for watching. I hope you found something you can take and use. And if you have ideas about premium pricing that you'd like to share, please leave a comment. Until next week, I hope y'all have a good one. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this, please hit the like button, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time.